Hello everybody, welcome to this week's story time. This week we have had a Scottish celebration called Burns Day where we remember a famous Scottish poet. So I thought today's story I would tell you a traditional Scottish story. It's a fairy tale that you might have heard with a different name. But the Scottish version of this fairy tale is called Whuppity Stoorie. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Long, long ago, a woman called Kate had a farm on the edge of a forest. Now, all she had on that farm were a couple of stony fields, her wee son Jamie, and a big pink pig. That big pink pig was their hope for the future because the pig was due to have piglets. If the piglets were healthy and plump, then Kate could sell them to buy food for the winter and seeds to plant in the spring. So Kate and Jamie fed the pig better than they fed themselves. One day, Kate sent Jamie off to the pigsty with a big bowl of turnips and oats. But then she heard him yell, "Mum, come here!" Kate ran into the sty and she found the pig lying on the floor. The pig wasn't pink anymore. She was grey and she was struggling to breathe. Her ribs were creaking and rattling with every little breath. Kate had worked on the farm for the whole of her life and she knew the pig had to get back up onto her feet if she was to have a chance. So Kate and Jamie put their hands onto the pig and they tried to lift her up. But they'd fed the pig too well and she was too heavy. So they tried to persuade the pig to get up herself. They put mustard on her trotters, but she didn't get up. They put a clothes peg on her tail, but she didn't get up. They even put pepper under her nose, achoo! But she didn't get up. Finally, as the pig got greyer and greyer and her breathing got slower and slower, Kate said to Jamie, "Bring me the red tartan blanket to keep the pig warm, then off you go to bed. I'll stay up and keep her company because I don't think she'll still be with us in the morning." Kate sat there, shivering as she thought of the hungry winter and bare fields that she and Jamie would have without any piglets to sell. She heard the pig groaning, so she reached out and she patted the pig's flank. She sniffled back tears and said, "I'd give anything to have my pig well again." Well, as soon as she had said, "I'll give anything," there was a bright light at the edge of the forest. A light which whirled and burled all the way to the door of the pigsty. "You'd give anything," said a voice at the door. Kate turned round and saw a wee old wifey dressed all in green. Green boots, green cloak, green dress, green apron and green pointy hat. The old woman reached into her pocket of her apron and pulled out a wee green bottle. She stepped into the sty and repeated, "You'd give anything." She tipped the bottle up and poured one bright green drop onto the pig's snout. One drop between the pig's ears and one drop on the pig's tail. The pig snorted, leapt to her feet and stuck her nose into the bowl of porridge. Kate was so happy that she didn't even notice that the wee old wifey had whirled and twirled back to the forest. In fact, Kate was so busy that night helping the big pink pig give birth to her litter of 12 plump piglets that she completely forgot about the wee old wifey. But the next evening, Kate heard a knock at the door. And there on the doorstep was the wee old wifey, dressed all in green. "Oh, hello," said Kate. "Thank you so much for healing my pig." "I've come for that promise you made to me," said the wee old wifey. "I didn't promise you anything, did I? But you did heal my pig, so I should give you something to say thank you." Kate offered the wee wifey the red blanket. "It smells a bit of pig, but it's very warm." "It's not the blanket you owe me," said the wee wifey. "What about my granny's old milk jug? It's a bit chipped, but it has pretty blue flowers on it." "It's not a jug you owe me." "I've got nothing else." "Oh, what about a piglet? Would that be fitting? When they're weaned, I could give you a piglet." "It's not a piglet you owe me. I'm here for your son." "Jamie, my son? But you can't take him. You can't take my son. You can't take someone's child." "You said you'd give me anything, and he's the only thing I want." "But you can't. There must be rules." The old wifey nodded reluctantly. "Well, the rules I live by say I can't take him until 3 nights after the promise. And I can't take him at all if you call me by my true name." "So I call you by your true name and you can't take my son," said Kate. The old wifey nodded and laughed. "Aye, but you'll never guess it." And she whirled and burled and twirled off to the edge of the forest. Well, Kate sat by the side of the fire, wrapped in the blanket, and she thought and she thought. What could the old wifey's name be? So she was a strange wee woman, so maybe she had a strange name. Whirligig. Green Boots. Nebby Nora. But none of these seemed right, so Kate thought of all the other names she'd ever heard of. Her head filled with names of her friends, her family, her neighbours, and people in stories her granny had told her. Janet and Flora, Ishbel, Helen, Shiraz, Utha, Skich, until her head was almost full. Kate sat and thought of names all night, all day, all the next night, until she had a horrible headache. So she went out into the fresh air to see if that would clear all the wrong names out of her head and leave just the right one. Well, she went for a walk along the edge of the forest, which wasn't so dangerous by daylight, And anyway, Kate was a brave woman. But walking in the forest was no help, because she kept seeing flowers which had reminded her of more names. She could be called Daisy, or Lily, or Lavender, or Ivy, or Nettle, or Thistle, or Rosebay Willowherb. She could be called anything. Kate's head was full to bursting. She slumped down on a tree stump and she put her head into her hands. Then she heard a laugh coming from under the tree stump. She bent down and she saw a wee hole, and through the wee hole she saw a wee house, and in the wee house she saw a wee wifey, a wee old wifey dressed all in green. The wee old wifey was spinning, and as she spun, she chanted to herself, "Little kens the good wife at hame, that Whuppity Stoorie is my name. What she disna ken, she canna say, and the bairn will be mine the morrow's day." She laughed and she repeated the rhyme again and again and again as she spun. Up on the tree stump, Kate laughed too, very quietly, because her head was clear. All the other names had vanished, and one shone bright in front of her eyes. She was so happy, she ran home and she hugged Jamie. She was so happy she hugged the piglets too. She sat down and waited for night to fall. Well, night fell and there was a knock at the door. "I've come for that which you promised me. I've come for your son, Jamie," said the small wifey. "Oh no, first I get to guess your name." "How many guesses do I get?" said Kate. "Three's a good number. You can have 3 guesses," said the little wifey. "Is your name Shabazz?" asked Kate. "Do I look like a Shabazz?" said the wee wifey. "No, you certainly don't." "So is your name Rosebay Willowherb?" "Do I look like a Rosebay Willowherb?" said the little wifey. "No, you don't," said Kate. "You look like a Whuppity Stoorie." Well, as soon as Kate said her true name, the wee old wifey dressed in green squealed and started to turn round on the spot. Whuppity Stoorie swirled and twirled as fast. She whirled and twirled so fast she went right up into the sky, and as she rose so high, she was never ever seen again. Because once you know the true names of the magical ones in the forest, they have no power over you. But unless you know all their names, you should never say, "I'll give anything," in the middle of the night on the edge of the forest. Not unless you really mean it. I hope you enjoyed that Scottish tale, the Scottish tale of Whuppity Stoorie. I'll be back next week for another story. Bye-bye for now.